So hi Bertrand, thank you so much for having us today. Could you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi Shine, my name is Bertrand Gacon. I'm the co-founder of Impaakt.
Thank you so much. And what about your background? You've been a banker for a few years. Can you tell me more about your
Sure,
experience?
yeah, you're right. I started my career in banking more by accident than by choice. And about 15 years ago, I created the sustainable and impact investing offering at BNP Paribas Wealth Management out of personal conviction. This is for me was really the recognition that the financial sector is a very powerful part of the broader economy, and being able to influence that sector and make sure that the money is being allocated for the for the companies having the most positive impact on the planet and society was really what motivated me, and so I started into that type of activity, into the space, 15 years ago, when it was really the beginning for that industry. And now, of course, it's something which is a lot more mainstream in the entire financial sector, and it was about time that it comes, and I think the industry now realizes that we need to move beyond ESG into impact, and this is what we do.
Wonderful. So what exactly pushed you to create Impact? Like, what was the turning point where you decided to leave the financial sector somehow and create Impact? Maybe you didn't leave completely that sector, but what made you make the switch?
Yeah, I think it's not completely leaving. It's actually a more natural continuation. I was working already in sustainable finance, but I was more within the bank, trying to use the data and create sustainable funds and impact funds, and I was very frustrated with the data that we were having at hand. It's very complex to measure the impact that large companies have on the planet and society, and I felt like, I believe many of my colleagues in the space, that the usual ESG ratings that are available are only a small part of the answer, and we needed to have something which is a lot more focused on the real impact measurement. And I got tired to wait for these systems to come, so we decided with my co-founder Sylvain to create that platform. And from the very beginning, we believed it should be a collaborative platform, because measuring the impact of businesses is highly complex, and you need a lot of brain power to do that.
And exactly on that point, can you tell us more about why is it complicated to measure the impact? Like, what are the current practices in place? And why is it not working?
Well, I think when ESG, environmental, social, and governance data was developed about 20-30 years ago, the real focus was first of all to measure the practices and policies of the company, so whether they do things right, not whether they do the right thing, which is a different thing. Also, I think the initial idea was more to assess the risks that the environment or the social activities might have on the company, when what we want to measure is exactly the opposite. We want to measure the impact that the companies have on the planet and society, and we believe it is what matters really, and this is not what is available today. And if you really want to make informed decision on which companies are really bringing a positive change into the world, this is what you need to measure, and this is what we do at Impact.
Okay, wonderful. So if you could sum up the mission of Impact, what would it be in one sentence?
It's accelerating and enabling the transition towards an impact-driven economy. That's really what we want to do.
Can you tell us more about how your community, the community that you're building, is involved in the ratings? What different opportunities do people from the community have to contribute to that impact?
Sure. I mean, the community is, of course, it's really a collaborative work. So they are the one doing and creating the value on the platform. And there are two different types of activities you can get involved in. The first one is becoming an analyst. That requires to go through a certification of a certified impact analyst, which is free, which is available to everyone. About 120,000 people already have registered to that training so far. And only 500 have actually succeeded becoming certified impact analysts, not because it is so complicated and so hard, but because it requires to learn some skills. Impact analysis is not so straightforward. You need to know the frameworks, and you need also to be able to actually write up a number of analyses with a high level of success, high grades, before you get your certification. And once you get certified, then you can start contributing on the platform. There is a topic selector from which you can select the topics you want to write about, and then you reserve the topic. You have 15 days to produce your research, document, find all the sources, all the data, and then submit to the review team the short summary about the impact that you've been documenting. And if you're successful, then you get paid, and then you can move to the next topic. The other engagement that you have is actually done by a much broader community of nearly 40,000 people today, which we call the impact raters. They are the guys who will read all those research notes that have been published by the analyst with all the data that's already been extracted, verified, vetted, and summarized. And based on that, they will do some assessments about how broad, deep, and persistent are the impacts described in the analysis, and we will just bring all of these ratings together to calculate the impact scores of the companies.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And as I mentioned to you, I've become an impact rater myself, and I remember having to go through more than 30 analyses and rate each of these analyses. And what was striking to me is that in such a short amount of time, I was able to educate myself on so many topics. I think that maybe is another goal, educate your community on important topics and how each company is having a positive or negative impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of our mission is really to democratize the impact analysis and bring that information in the hands of every single citizen. We're all investors, we're all consumers, we're all employees of some companies, and so we want everyone to be able to access to that information in a completely free and transparent way. So most of the data that we produce is available on the platform for everyone to use. Everyone can be a contributor, but everyone can be also a user of that information. This was also how we can accelerate, speed up, and scale up the whole process and make sure that impact dimension gets into the daily decision-making process of everyone.
So who uses your data? Who are your clients, basically? For whom the data that you're collecting is useful?
So our main clients is actually the financial industry. This is where we're coming from. We used to be users of this kind of data ourselves, and we're selling that to portfolio managers, asset owners, because we really believe that we need to reallocate capital towards the companies that have the most positive impact on the planet and society, and the financial industry has, of course, a very central role to play into that transition. So they really should stop financing, the companies that have wrong business models and accelerating the transition towards companies that bring the solutions of the many challenges that we face. And this is exactly what the Impact platform is all about. So we sell that to this industry, and they use the data to make sure that they build new funds, or they also integrate that information into all of their existing strategy, just to add up another dimension, another layer in their investment process, which goes beyond just risks and return, but just add risk, returns, and impact as the standard third dimension of the investment process.
Yeah, which is absolutely wonderful. And I have another question. So each company on your platform has an impact score. How is this score calculated?
Yeah, so the score is just the consolidation of underlying topics. So for each company, we have a list of topics, and all the companies in the world have positive and negative contribution. There is not one single champion that only does good thing. Every company creates some form of pollution. Every company creates jobs. So there's some good things to take from every company and some bad things to take from every company in the world. So the idea is to be able to identify all the major issues and quantify them and give them a weight. How much is plastic pollution, how much does it weigh against nutrition when it comes to Nestle, for instance? Nestle does create some plastic pollutions with their packaging, for instance, but they also feed the planet. So how much weight do you give to each of these two contributions to be able to consolidate that and calculate the global score of Nestle together with their GHG emissions, their contribution to labor practices for farmers, and all of the many impact that they have. And well, the idea is to be able to, for each of those major topics, document and research all the information with key metrics, qualitative and quantitative information, and then use the collective intelligence to get the community to rate each of these impacts individually, so that we can then at the end of the day have now how much weight we should give to each of those topics when we calculate the aggregated score of each company. Okay. And this is what you see, the end result that you see on the platform.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. And I had a look at the platform, and some company scores were a bit surprising to me. For example, I remember Accor, Nestle, Alibaba. All of these three companies had overall positive impacts. How can you explain that, knowing that most of them have been criticized for their negative impact on either people or the planet?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the first thing I'd like to say that for me, the three names that you mentioned are not so surprising. I was more upset when I was using the traditional ESG score to see that tobacco company, for instance, could have a much better sustainability score than a healthcare company because ESG is more focused on practices, and you could have very good practices as a tobacco company. You can treat your employees very well, you can treat your suppliers very well, but still your end product is tobacco, which is harmful to the planet and society, right, and health in particular.
Absolutely.
So I think we don't have these kind of biases on the platform. What you are pointing to are actually more, I would say, related to the fact that sometimes some companies are being penalized for their reputation and for some of the bad things they do, and we forget, all the good things they do at the same time. And so it's not our job, the platform, to tell you, how much the good things should weigh against the bad thing. But if you take the example of Nestlé, as I was mentioning, Nestlé is a very strong contributor to food safety, to food security. It's feeding hundreds of millions of people on the planet every day. Absolutely. It's also creating, thousands of jobs. And each of these impact individually have been given a slightly higher weight than each of the negative impacts. So their contribution to GHG emissions, some of their labor practices where there have been some controversial activities, particularly with child labor. I mean, all of the bad things also they've been involved into. If you weight all of that together, not me and not you only, but the whole 40,000 people that contribute, then it will end up to a final score, which is for Nestlé, if I remember, very near zero. Yeah, actually. They just
0.02.
0.02 today. It might have been slightly negative yesterday. It might become more positive tomorrow, just because ratings are being done on the platform every day and keeps changing in a very dynamic way. So the score is actually evolving, not like moving from +5 to -5, but some companies are having some evolutions in what they do and how they're perceived, and therefore you will have a floating score that is changing every day.
Okay, so right now the community, it's been growing over the past few years. You mentioned how many people are part of the community again?
So it's near 40,000 today.
Wow. Okay, that's huge.
Participant.
Do you have some goals for the future years? Like, do you have a number that you are looking for?
Well, the ideal number would be 8 billion, I guess.
Okay, makes sense.
But before we get there, I think in terms of just the I would say the accuracy of what we do in terms of just having enough volume from the statistic standpoint. I think we're already good enough. But of course, the more we get, the more power these ratings have when we sell them to the financial industry, when we sell them to the corporates. They will tend to recognize these scores are more valid if they are being done by 2 million people than if they're being done by 50,000. So of course the more the better. So I just encourage every one of you, just go to the platform. Yes. Speak your mind, share your standpoints, do those ratings, not as a reputational standpoint, but really as fact-based types of evaluation. It's very important that we do that very thoroughly, very seriously, very rigorously. Nothing that we do is really I hate Nestle or I hate McDonald's and I love Apple. No, it's not about that. It's about key metrics, facts that have been documented, and then you can do your own ratings and transform that into score. And the more we are doing this, the more weight these scores will have for the people that we want to change.
That is wonderful. Last question. How would you describe Impact in 3 words?
Collective intelligence impact.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to add? Any remarks?
Well, I think impact is actually the job of everyone on the planet. I just want to thank all the members of that community that are just doing such a terrific job. But I would also encourage each of you watching these short videos and you guys having been involved into that project, wonderful project. To keep pushing hard, because at the end of the day, we won't only get there if we all get there together. So
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.